I promised this in my recent review of Junk PhDs, and now I'm delivering a closer look at this doctor who got a PhD in storytelling, specialising in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Matrix. Who is she? We'll go through the tweets, the thesis, her LinkedIn profile. Let's get inside her and learn who she really is. Dr. Emma says, I'm a femo geek. I once wrote so many words that I accidentally became a doctor. I mean, I've met these types. I'm ashamed to say I've even dated some of them. One of the first things they'll ever say to you is that they've got a PhD. That's even before they ask your name. Hi, I'm Sally. I have a PhD. I'm really clever. People call me doctor. Oh wait, what's your name? She once wrote so many words. These people, they do know words. They know lots of words. They know more words than me. They can write lots of words on paper, put the words together in different ways to make sentences and paragraphs. Dr. Emma even wrote 354 pages of words in her thesis. This knowing of words in no way translates to any intelligence or original thought. And what's more is that all the words that they know and their university participation certificates brings out an incredible level of hubris in them. It makes them completely blind to their own shortcomings. It basically turns them into standard NPCs. I'll read you some of her tweets and then you can judge for yourself the quality of this doctor's storytelling and the standard of her writing. Now keep in mind that your taxes pay for this woman's salary. She works at the same government department as Julian Mingrant, the e-safety lady. So with that knowledge, let's delve in. I just got soup in my eye. How's your day going? This is the writings of a PhD. Why must we deify them? Me, losing one of my earbuds after recklessly throwing them on my bed. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my behaviour. As someone who never gets blood noses, let me tell you, getting one out of the blue is quite an alarming experience. Riveting. She must have forgotten about her hysterical tweet in 2021. Woke up this morning with a blood nose. I've never had a blood nose before. Let me tell you, that was disconcerting. One day she's putting too much detergent into the washing machine. Did I put enough detergent in the machine? Who's to say? And the next day she forgets to add any. I just washed my clothes with no detergent. The post-move brain fog is real. Adulting, hey? She frequently complains about the cost of living crisis, but then she brags about how she spent $50 on an Indian takeaway for one person. Shout out to my incredibly supportive and genuinely amazing poly girlfriend. Of course, she's in a poly relationship with another PhD grifter, and when you dig deep, you find that a large amount of the Melbourne PhD community are in polyamorous relationships with each other. She retweets posts in support of drag queens reading stories to infants, which gives a clear indication to the quality of her thinking. Her mental state is a serious concern. I think it needs constant monitoring. Having a really tough time with the COVID isolation. It's not even 9 a.m. and I'm already having a bad day. Another night of insomnia. I was going to do a long thread, but then it all became a bit too much. I've had a really difficult day today. Tonight is rough. Cute animal gifts much appreciated. Is anyone else struggling to concentrate, feeling overwhelmed or helpless? I'm having a bad pandemic brain day. She even admits in a few tweets that her PhD was mostly staring at the screen, cleaning her house, getting drunk, and crying. Now, I'm going to surprise you. I'll give a little bit of respect to the thesis. Bits of it are interesting. You might wonder what she means by transmedia. No, it's not television for troons, it's when the story is told across different platforms and types of media. The best example being the Blair Witch Project, which used various media to build up lore back in the 90s. They used missing persons posters prior to the movie's release to build up mystery. I remember they had various websites set up to expand on the story, which it had people hooked after seeing the film. They did a lot of interesting stuff. It even says here that the IMDb page also listed the actors as missing presumed dead in the first year of the film's availability. But as interesting as I found some of her writing, I can't say it's worthy of being called a doctor. Much of it is just stating the obvious using lots of big words. For example, she concludes several times that having a single author write pieces for all media will increase the likelihood of consistency, Whereas if different authors are given license to expand the universe, then there's an increased chance that one story might go off on a wild tangent that wasn't expected by the original author. Think of it like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles having different writers for different episodes and then more authors for the comic book series. Naturally, the more writers that get involved, the more likely it is that you're going to find inconsistencies in the characters' personalities and within the fantasy world. At this point in the thesis, we learn from one Buffy fan, David, that when he found out that Buffy would continue in comic book form, that he got really excited, and that's what convinced him to go out and buy the comic. He, David, later contended that characters are the most important parts of the Buffyverse. Wow, we have learned so much. In another section, David reports to Dr. Emma that he loved how in the movie Buffy was a tiny blonde, kicking ass instead of running away screaming, and that she enjoyed sex, but that changed slightly in the TV series, which upset him a bit. I think maybe she wasn't as sexual in the TV series or something, I don't know, I never really watched it. But fortunately, he remained a fan of the franchise despite his fantasy being ruined a little. How many years did she devote to this research? Basically, she's got an interest in movies and managed to grift out a PhD from it, which then leads to a career funded by the taxpayer. Her thesis is mostly based on data she collected from her various questionnaires and interviews with fans of these movies and shows. I wonder, who was most likely to respond to her call for interviewees? Probably a lot of people who collect Funko Pop dolls and have a sink full of unwashed dishes and live in a cat piss-stenched hell. That's a stereotype, Tom. Is it? Prove me wrong. I bet a significant amount of the respondents were exactly that. And another portion of them were her chums that she does a podcast with, and the remainder probably her PhD buddies from the mass polycule. Let's jump over to LinkedIn. I mean, I hate LinkedIn. The more someone takes LinkedIn seriously, the more of a fraud they are. I see it in my industry too. The louder someone is on LinkedIn, the more of a bullshit artist and phony they tend to be. She recently got a job at the Australian Communications and Media Authority, which is the same government department that the E-Safety Commissioner's Office reports upwards into. Perhaps she's one of Julie's disciples. Her role is research analyst, but not just research analyst, a senior research analyst, because adding senior in front of the job title is how they justify putting you on a higher salary band within the public service. She's the research lead on the National Media Diversity Measurement Framework. What pish is this? You pay for it. This is your taxes. Well, my role is to develop and implement the Media Diversity Measurement Framework. It's really important. We've lived our whole lives without a Media Diversity Measurement Framework, and we can't survive another day without it. My interpretation of this is that she's going to be inventing more paper shuffling bureaucracy, and I'm guessing from my knowledge of the public service pay scales is that she's on between 120 and 150 grand, along with all the benefits that come with it, which I guess is why she can throw out $50 on an Indian takeaway for one and then make an inane tweet about it. This should really call into question the ACMA's funding of 121 million a year. It's obviously far too much when they throw a six-figure salary at this imbecile. The ACMA employing as a senior member of staff this literal child who can't successfully wash her clothes without having a mental health episode. I mean, here's another banger from her showing that she needs constant adult supervision. Currently playing a game of, was the chicken I just ate undercooked? It's more of a waiting game than anything else. She got an honours award when she did her Bachelor of Arts for her thesis on why fans write fan fiction online. Why do they write fan fiction? Why? Well, let me think. Because they really liked the original work. They enjoyed being immersed in that universe. Maybe the author isn't creating any more on that series and fan fiction writers want to continue to be in that fantasy realm. Maybe to pay respect to the original work, maybe to share their work with other fans and get some applause from the community. I don't know. I pulled that out my arse in 20 seconds. I wonder if she came up with any other thoughts with all of her study and insight. Probably not too dissimilar to my analysis. PhD, please. Now, do I hate this girl? Do I mean her harm? Absolutely not. Am I being mean? Perhaps. But I've stopped giving a about that. I've worked alongside these PhDs for 20 years and I've bit my lip. The majority of them are nothing but passengers in the workplace. In fact, they just get in the way. They get cushy jobs, they milk the benefits, and others have to do the lifting. I guarantee you she uses as much working from home time as she can get away with. And she'll have a rehearsed excuse. I just get so much more done from home, I'm really productive. This is the same girl who boasts about her procrastinating on Twitter. I've just been reassured that procrastinating while working on a research paper is just productively ruminating. Do you remember earlier when she said her PhD was mostly getting drunk and crying? This will be the majority of her work as the senior researcher at the ACMA. And now, because people like myself kept quiet for so long and just got on with their jobs, we have the most powerful decision-making positions in government filled with these empty-headed vessels. Types who can't operate a washing machine or get out of bed without having a mental breakdown or telling Twitter about their emotional state. She'd be lost without the government propping her up, and we've allowed this to happen. We need a mass correction, a recalibration of people's worth to society, and the bureaucrats and paper shufflers are going to do everything in their power to stop that. For example, the misinformation bill they're trying to push through in Australia, that will contribute to keeping useless people at the top and snuffing out any criticism of them. This didn't have to be a PhD. She could have done this as a hobby, in her spare time as a work of passion. But of course then she wouldn't get a fancy title in her email signature. And dumb government departments wouldn't have given her as much money for banging away at a keyboard like the mentally deficient monkey that she is.